Uh, no, man, I just it's a weird time. I just got asked to do another Zoom show, and I haven't done any Zoom stand up. I just don't know if I'm ready to cross into that world. And no, things are weird. People are dying, that I know anyway. And yeah, I'm excited for the world to either end or change.
I agree, man. I'm sick of this slow apocalypse bullshit. It's like if we're gonna do this, man, let's do it. Like I feel like right now what we're doing is like someone. I feel like it's a suicidal gesture. Like somebody just split one wrist in the tub. It's just like you don't really want to die. You want to get caught and saved. It's just like just put the barrel in your mouth, man. This is if we're gonna end it, let's end it. I know that's morbid, but I feel you, man.
Yeah,
Just slide.
don't you hate these cries for help? Just get a grenade and strap it to your neck.
Right. Yeah, this is get it over with, man.
I
Don't
wish
be a
that there was
bitch.
like a better way for the world to end. Just like an asteroid just comes and just takes us out and just wipes out like everyone. As opposed to like the slowing sort of like, I don't know.
Yeah, like the low and slow barbecue method. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't like it
exactly.
either.
And the thing about like coronavirus is it's not even like a feel sorry sort of like a death. It doesn't have that like connotation like other diseases, which kind of sucks. So I kind of wish, I think that the asteroid would just kind of do the job.
Yeah, it's just I think Hollywood really set us up for a like movie type apocalypse where your eyeballs are bleeding. Nobody's really fighting about if it's real or not. It's just such a weird. It's just like the perfect storm of just doubt and just tension. It's very. It almost seems like it's calculated by a higher being. Like how many different just things can we add to make this shit worse? Like for me, it started when Kobe Bryant died. I was like, man, this is weird. This year is gonna be weird. What the fuck is going on? And it just got worse and worse and worse. It's insane. It's
Yeah. You really taught us also how many people were barely holding on already. Like it
right.
really showed us like the people who just could not adapt at all. And that's where you get people who like the people who refuse to wear a mask in March, or the people who were like just freaking out that anything about their lives were changing at all. Because that's kind of a thing that a lot of people have. Like the inability to adapt is a very
Right.
dangerous and it's actually a psychological phenomenon that children, like toddlers, they can predict their politics later in life by their adaptability as toddlers. That
Wow. Are you
children who
serious?
yeah, I remember
Wow.
in a psych class they taught us about this. That children who would grow up liberal uh, adapted to situations, and children who grew up conservative changed their environment to match what they were used to. Like they would literally put them in environments and then change them, and see which kids felt the need to put everything back where it was before.
Right. And it's so funny to me, and I didn't mean totally we didn't mean to make this political, but it's just like and I'm not shitting on Republicans, but it's like those are the people who are always talking about like people need to adapt to change and people need to toughen up and realize the world doesn't revolve around them. But these are the same people who won't, like you said, they don't want to wear a mask. It's like how can you complain about the economy not opening up and people need to get back to work? And then you go into someone's store and then they go, hey, when you wear a mask, can you wear a mask? And they're like, go fuck yourself. I'm an American. I can do what I want to do. It's like you can't say you support small business. And then when someone asks you to put a mask on in their business, you fight them and think that your rights trump their business. It's so weird.
It's just, well, it's part of this weird kind of childish insecurity that has kind of grown a lot in the last several years. Like that a
Right.
lot of people have no interest in appearing like adults. And I think you can see that very clearly in the rap game. In the 90s,
Ooh, let's see this. I
in the
like that.
90s, everyone wanted to be daddy, papa, mister. And then 20 years later, everyone's kid, little, young.
Yeah.
It used to be cool. Big Daddy Kane was 15 years old when he started calling himself Big Daddy Kane.
Dude, that's a great observation. I never thought about that. That's so
Big Papa was a child.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Yeah, Dr. Dre. No, like, yeah, Biggie was a child. Biggie died a child. Like, he was 24 years old. He was a baby.
That's crazy, man. When you think about when you pass that age and you look back and go, he was so young.
Meanwhile, young Jeezy is 58 years old.
So does that mean that confidence has just eroded since the 90s?
I think so. The 90s were really a high watermark of society.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So
Everything
Pink
is perfect.
Are you in the States now, or are you still over in South Africa? I didn't
No,
do a lot of
I'm in
research
South
into
Africa.
it.
Oh, no,
What-
no, it's
what
all
year-
good.
What year is it over there?
What year it is? So I would say that where America is now in the coronavirus, we are, I don't know, 3 months behind. So yeah,
Oh, so you're starting to suck.
we're starting to suck.
Yeah, I mean, India is the really interesting one because India for a while was like, we know for a fact you're not reporting all these because like no one was getting it for a while, and then India's the only one this chart has just been a triangle. It is just a straight triangle in India of just getting worse every day. Now it's 80,000 a day new cases.
See, dude, I stopped watching the news in March, man. I couldn't do it, but it's insane. But you have, I mean, a large population that they live on top of each other. You know, people think New York City is bad, but you know, but when you're in some of these areas, man, where it's just squalor conditions, there's no type of protection or sanitary or protocol in place, and it's just spreading like wildfire, man. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, I
Pretty
mean,
sad.
basically when you look at like a lot of countries where the poor just don't have access to healthcare, this has just been a time bomb anyway. That like eventually, because I mean, plagues just happen. Plagues happen throughout history, and it's
Right.
because of travel. You know, the Black Plague originated from essentially some of the worst people in history, the Mongolian invasion. Because they were covering more distance than any large group had ever done before, they spread things from Asia all the way to Europe and China. So people got sicker then than ever. Like China had their first Black Plague because of the Mongolians. Mongolians were also the first documented case of catapulting dead bodies over a wall into a castle to get everyone sick.
Jesus.
That's
I gotta give it
inventive.
to them though. They might have done that, but you gotta give it to them, man. Their beef is pretty damn good there, Dave.
Well, they of course, that comes from, that's funny trivia, from they would take their shields and use them to cook in.
Ah, okay.
They would take the shield, put it upside down, then you got to walk.
Damn.
Just, for efficiency.
They were
Just
liberals
like
because
American
managed to
soldiers used to
adapt.
cook soup in their hats.
Yep, in the helmets. Yeah, World War II. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know the
I love
funniest
history.
thing.
Sorry,
The
go on,
funniest.
John.
So the funniest thing about America, and I wouldn't necessarily say that it's funny, but like, why is America the only country in the world where people are like literally refusing to wear masks because it's against their freedom? Like,
That's
it's
why.
such a wild concept.
It's. I was thinking about this this morning. It's freedom, man. That's why when you can do what you want to do, we have to accept the fact that everyone's not going to get on board, and if we want to have these freedoms, it's just going to take us that much longer to get over things before people get on board. It's weird to me that like how people can't understand that. Like I have no idea what it would be like to not be able to say whatever I wanted to, or like walk into a store and go, I'm not fucking doing that. I mean, you don't have that freedom to say like, I'm not wearing that, or like, I'm not doing that.
I think it's also, we're basically the only country where the ruling party has decided to use getting people sick as just a basic political move. Like where every other country,
Right.
yeah, you go to Italy and you have governors and the presidents and all the leaders in Italy, months ago on TV yelling, I see people in my district going out to get haircuts. Hope your hair looks good when you're in a coffin. That's how you have to talk to people.
Right.
And meanwhile, we have a president who is just trying to get people sick because he doesn't care if people die. He just calculated all that matters is how it looks. If I can get everyone to stop acting like it matters and they just die, he wins. So we're the only country where the person you're supposed to listen to get information about this is out there saying, don't wear a mask, don't stay home. This virus is not actually killing anyone.
Right. Come fly
It's just
to my
us and
state.
Turkmenistan. That's it.
Yeah. Come fly to my state. It's fine. Yeah, dude. Honestly, man, it's all politics, man. It's very, very political, and a lot of these governors in different states, they want to align themselves with certain parties, so they're willing to look common sense, look aside when it comes to common sense, just to put themselves in a position to maybe work their way up to maybe get a job in the White House or maybe get a job in Washington. It's all politics. It's all money. That's
We have
that's
an
what we're about.
anti-science. Yeah, we have an anti-science culture. We have an
Yep.
anti-science. Most countries don't have that. They don't see.
Anti-intellectual. Yep.
Yeah, they don't see intellectualism as the enemy. And that's been something we've had since Reagan, basically. This
Yeah.
idea that being intelligent makes you suspect. I mean, we've
Right.
had it before in other countries like Cambodia, but anti-intellectualism. But it's never been this kind of weird,
Vietnam
just
too. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you look at where they had these purges of everyone who wore glasses, literally, and it's like that. We have a soft version of that now. This idea that you can openly say that scientists can be right and we shouldn't listen to them. That's an amazing thing where they start saying like, yes, well, we're not saying the scientists are all lying. We're just saying, there are some things more important than facts.
Yeah. That's when things got scary, man. When they introduced the term alternative facts, dude, and that's when it just started getting wonky. It's insane, man. It's just people just literally believe what they want to believe, man. Left and the right. It's just it's pretty wild, man. It is pretty wild the time that we're living in, where fact you can question facts.
Well, I
It's
mean, that's
just
what Trump has sort of rode this whole wave of trying to convince people that if you get enough people to believe with you, you can literally shift reality. And if
yeah,
enough people say this is true, it's just true. And that's what that's what he's done with everything else. So he thinks he can do it with a virus that doesn't react to lies. And so it's just been this thing where he's like, no, just be a salesman. Doesn't matter. Someday it'll be gone and I'll be able to ignore it. And it just shows how it's a perfect example of how dangerous it is to have a governance that literally rejects the concept of information and just says information is what we want it to be. It doesn't matter.
right.
This
Dude,
is what
I watched
happens.
I watched this a short interview with this guy who escaped the Soviet Union back in 1984, and he talked about these different phases. I don't remember it exactly, but he was saying one of the big things is in a time where we had, and this is 1984, and they felt like they had a plethora of information available to everyone. Where basically he was saying in a time where information is free to everybody. You're able to just interject all these lies and introduce doubt to where any and everything is questionable, and no one knows what's real, no one knows what's fake, and you can just pick and choose what you want to believe. It's just it's a pretty genius thing, man, to where you really don't have to do much. It's just all you have to do is interject doubt, and then everything else kind of just crumbles, man. It's
It shows
yeah.
us why we needed elitism. Look what elitism was doing. It was keeping the crazy people from anyone listening to them.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. Yeah, because I have friends. When those frontline doctors came out, they go, "Well, even if they aren't right, they should be heard." I'm like, "Well, you can't just throw in a lab coat and then have someone say like, I'm a doctor." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We
And
saw that with climate change. We saw that with cigarettes
yeah,
causing lung cancer. You're always going to
yeah,
find some shitty doctor going to pretend this is true.
right. It's all about money. And I'm not an anti-capitalism guy, but that's it. It all boils down to money, man. Money and politics. Money and That's all people care about here is money
It's
and
kind of been
politics.
amazing how you're right. That's the way things have been for so long. Yet the Trump administration has been so incompetent that they couldn't even find enough shills. Like they keep running out. They keep having to fire people and get new people and get worse and worse lower level people because everyone is like, oh, geez, I'm going to ruin my life if I go along with this as much as it's good for me now. I mean, just the fact
Right.
that we now have,
People are
Trump
jumping ship.
he kept having to get rid of different doctors and scientists until he finally got this idiot who's because he finally found anyone who would say, yes, just get everyone sick. Just stop trying. Because that's what
Right.
someone like Trump who just, when you have someone who's obviously, mentally ill and they can't really focus on things, that's the exact thing they kind of do. They don't have the patience to really fight this war. They just want to be like, just stop it. I just want to end it already. And I say that, by the way, having actually had conversations with Donald Trump personally. He he's not as conceited as you think. Because when I talked to him, I realized when he's constantly changing the subject to himself, I don't think it's because he's got an ego problem necessarily. I think he was confused. And I think
Oh,
he
really?
changes the subject to brag about himself to not make it clear that he's not following what you're talking about.
That makes perfect sense, man.
I mean, he is obviously that conceited, but that is the impression I got.
Yeah, I think he's a smart dude, man. He's a TV guy. He knows exactly how to get people riled up. He knows exactly what to say. I mean, yeah, he's just playing to a weird base of people, man. You know, and to be fair, I don't think every Trump supporter is a racist person or a bad person. It's just, you know, we're in a situation to say that you either got this person or that person, and people already know they don't like the left or they don't like Biden or Hillary, and they go, fuck it, I'm going with this person.
I do think it's
Yeah,
unforgivable. It just may not be just racism. I think it's also just
dude, it's a lot of ignorance.
I think it's diminished. Yeah, it's diminished capacities. People who are either mentally ill, alcoholics, pill addicts. Honestly, people who can't really wrap their head around everything that's going on because of some kind of diminished capacity. It's easier to manipulate those people.
Yeah, I live in Virginia. I live in a rural part of Virginia. It's very red, and the people that I see that support him in my town, they're typically fairly poor. They're working class. A lot of them are like landscapers and all that kind of stuff. And it's very easy to scapegoat brown and black people when you have these hardworking white guys cutting grass and they're roofing and doing all this kind of stuff and go, oh, these people are taking your jobs. They're doing this. They're doing that. It's just like, yeah, they're taking our jobs. They're doing this. They're raping our women. They're doing this. Those people are very, very easy to control because their lives suck. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They don't have a lot of money. All it takes for people like that to see is one or two brown or black people doing slightly better than them, and they want to question the validity of that person's belongings, how they make their money, how they got their job, and it's just an excuse to why their lives are shitty and other people's aren't. It's weird, man. People are so caught up in this because, dude, look at this. Some of these landscapers out here, they run these businesses. And when you look at their crews, same with these roofers, you look at it'll be some white guy with a Trump sticker on his truck, and he'll go, oh, these brown people are coming here, they're taking our jobs. But when you look at their staff, it's like, dude, it's all Mexican. It's like, you're the one hiring these people because you know it's cheaper for you. You're going to make more money. How can you get mad when you're the ones that are hiring the people that you're saying taking the jobs? If you think that, hire white guys.
Yeah, and if you ask him why he doesn't hire white guys, you're going to suddenly hear an answer about like, oh, they always want to, they never.
Exactly.
It's like they're not working as hard. They want to take longer breaks. They don't want to be like. You just be like, so what are you complaining about?
Exactly. You can't have it both ways.
I was going to say the funniest racism thing I've ever heard. One of the funniest like racist terms I've ever heard was the way that like people would talk about like Latino like migrant workers. And it's like, you can't simultaneously say someone's lazy and willing to work 5 times for the less money.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Which is it?
Right. You can't have it both ways. It's either they don't work or they're taking all the jobs. It's just like, which is it? Either we don't work or we're taking all the jobs. I don't get it, man.
It's a rank thing. It's about people looking at them and saying, well, I used to be higher than them. And but it's also this weird grass is greener argument where it's like, if it's one black guy doing better, that means they all are.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And honestly, I think it's a similar reason why people are so averse to, say, trans women or even drag queens, just gay men in general being openly accepted, because 100 years ago, every effeminate man was less than you. Every effeminate man was beneath you. That was one more guy that you were better than. And now they're queens. They're doing great. They're on TV shows. They're living their lives. They're getting respect from their own community. And suddenly it's like, oh, that's all those effeminate men are no longer just literally a pedestal that I can stand on top of and be like, I'm more masculine than you.
Dave, dude, you nailed it, because I know as far as the black community goes, I used to have so many friends, their lives were shitty. And you know what they would say? Well, at least I'm not gay. And this is like, what does that have to do with anything? It's just like, you're still a piece of shit. You don't take care of your kids. You barely can keep a job. Your phone is getting cut off every month. You still live with your mom, but you go, at least I ain't gay. It's just like, dude, I would rather be gay than be in the position that you're in. You think for some reason being straight is an accomplishment? It's like, you were just born straight, dude. You didn't do anything. It's weird. They think being straight is an accomplishment, some of these people.
It's all just it's all like a rank to them. It's all just who am I better than? Who am I beating out there?
Right. Patrice O'Neal talked about that. He was like, that's what it's all about. Just being better than the next guy. That's what the capitalism is. Dude, it's funny, like I come into my neighborhood and I look at all the houses, I go, every house basically is a corporation. Like my house, the Jones house is trying to outdo the Joneses next door and the people down the street. This guy gets a boat, somebody else wants a bigger boat. This guy gets a riding lawnmower, this guy wants a bigger one. You know, his wife gets a new van, I'm getting my wife a bigger van. I want a bigger truck. It's just, we're just constantly trying to outdo each other. We're just trying to step over each other, man. I mean, our whole thing is just based on taking advantage of each other. You seen people buy shit online, they go, oh, like, dude, I've had so many friends that go like, oh, what you want to do if you want to find a car or you want to find this, find a guy that's going through a divorce because he'll give it away so much cheaper because he doesn't want to give it to his wife. It's like we're constantly trying to find other Americans in shitty positions so you can lowball them on things that they worked hard to get. Whether it's a house, a car, a TV, it doesn't matter. It's just like, dude, I got this for $20. I got this for this much. It's all about fucking each other over, man. It's crazy. It's the American way.
It's
crazy. Patrice would be in a very unique position right now.
Oh, dude, I wish he was here, man.
He would be his own political movement because he wouldn't be part of anything.
You're very right. He would have such a diverse following. It would get to the point where people would go, he should run for president. Could you imagine Patrice O'Neal for president?
I think if Patrice I think Patrice would be Joe Rogan.
I could see that as well.
He would be a Black Joe Rogan. He would be that kind of popular, that kind of influential.
They would probably call him alt-right. They would maybe call him anti-Black, which he was not in the least bit. But
no, I think he would be. I think he would be very. He would be on right wing. He'd be the guy willing to go on the right wing shows.
Oh, he would. Yeah, he would destroy those dudes.
And I think he would make fun of them right now.
He would
for their criticisms of BLM. I think he would make fun of individuals, but I think he would very succinctly explain why it's happening. And I definitely think he would be cool. He would be on the side of the protests. I just think he'd be a very nuanced kind of opinion. That would be something we need so badly.
Would you say that he would almost would you say that he would almost be like a new type of Chappelle, or maybe a similar type of voice?
I think, well, the thing is, Patrice, I think what he was best at was podcasting and just talking and just having not like having unwritten off the top of his head conversations and like breaking things down.
Airtight logic.
Yeah. So I think that right now I think he would have become a very big voice over the last few years.
I believe so as well.
Because I think he would have been an outlet for a lot of people who are looking for what's right, but also want to feel he's a way that you could probably be on the side of good without feeling like a pansy. I think he would fill that niche for a lot of people.
That's a great point, man. That's a great point. Right.
But I look at Joe Rogan, for instance, and I feel very conflicted when he brings these guys like Ben Shapiro and stuff on his show, because essentially, with so many people listening to him, he's giving these type of people a platform, and people might listen to this and they might go, oh, that makes sense to me. And they might start to shift certain views. So what is kind of your take on that sort of a thing?
I don't listen to his show, so I don't really know what he's saying exactly. I don't think there's anything wrong with interviewing a bad person. It's kind of how I started my career, but I think you have to show what's right. You can't just have Milo on and laugh along with him and be like, oh, you're a good guy.
Well, yeah, he doesn't do that. What I like about Rogan is take a guy. That's a great example. Take a guy like Milo. Now, a lot of these kind of personalities, they get notoriety for their, you know, sound bites from the news and stuff. And you have to remember too, it's a lot like comedy. When pundits are coming up, they're getting on TV, they're trying to get, they want a viral sound bite, just like we want a viral video. So they're coming in with their A game, and they only have 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes way less than that, to make a point. So they becomes these provocateurs. You know, they go, oh, listen to what this guy said, listen to what this person said. And we're so quick to like people or dislike people, follow people, unfollow people. And what I really like about Joe Rogan is you get a large time block. And for a lot of people, they bury themselves. It's like a comic who's like, I'm ready to headline. It's just like, do you really have 45, 50 minutes or an hour? No. Guys like Milo go on that show for 3 hours, and you see that they really don't have much material. And then after an hour or two, they start running their mouth, and they start undoing all the shit that they said before. And that's exactly what happened to Milo. He ran out of shit to say. He started getting crazy. He started doing this weird thing where he was kind of like I wouldn't say approving of pedophilia, but he was.
Oh no,
saying
he's
some weird shit.
He said some
weird shit. And
he's defended. Yeah, he's defended pedophilia a lot. He's
right.
An idiot.
He kind of defended it. And see, I think that's what Joe Rogan does. He exposes people. He'll go, oh, you really like this person? Well, let's let them talk for 3 hours and see how much they really know.
I mean, he did that with Owen Benjamin. With Owen Benjamin, he was insane.
Candace Owen. See, with Owen Benjamin, that guy fucked up because, I don't really like to talk shit about other comics. So I'm not talking about his act. So Owen Benjamin fucked up is because while I think he's a funny guy, he's not a Bill Burr, and he tried to steer into that how Bill Burr really won't back down. But it's like, dude, you do not have the skill set. You don't have the years of experience that Bill Burr has had for years on O&A with guys like Patrice, Jim Norton, and all those guys to be able to do that. You don't. He steered into it the wrong way and sunk his own ship.
Owen is just not.
Fucked himself.
Owen does not argue honestly. Owen thinks he's smarter than everyone and that he's fabricating this horrifying persona because he's like, these are the only people that will support me. So I think everyone just knows that Owen is full of shit, and Owen thinks he's getting over on people. And Joe was the guy being like, none of this is real. You're doing a complete act because you think these flat earther idiots are going to give you money.
Right. People steering into that shit, man. There's guys just running to that right side just to make money, you know, and it bit him in the ass, man. It really did. I mean, like his initial statement, I can understand him being upset when someone asks him if he believes people should give a 3-year-old hormones. If you ask that person the question, don't get mad when they give you, you know, their honest answer or you know what I'm saying? I feel like he gave his honest answer, whether it's politically correct or not. You asked him a question and you didn't like it. Things got out of hand. I understand not wanting to apologize, but when you steer into things the wrong way, it can really just backfire. Sometimes you just got to know when to walk away and say, you know what? I gave my opinion. I'm done with this. I'm not going to continue with this. And there's so many types of people. You really don't want them as fans, man. I wish some comics would understand that. I support all comics to do any type of joke. I'm a free speech guy. Just because I say, hey, I support free speech, that doesn't mean that I approve of your joke. I approve of the attempt to do the joke. But like some people, man, I think guys are starting to realize this isn't 8-9 years ago when you can just get on the podcast and talk about weird stuff. Maybe you've done in the past some things that are very questionable. It's not the Wild West with podcasts anymore. You have to be careful, and it's not about like giving in to the left or you know or sacrificing your integrity. You have to realize that there's some point in your career, in your life, you have to stop playing to the back of the room. You can't do it because a lot of these guys, they like to get on these podcasts and listen to people say, you know, just homophobic words, transphobic things, racist things, and they want to laugh at it. All the while, those guys, they have nice jobs, they have a house, they've got a family, and they expect up-and-coming comics who want to make money to continue to do that type of thing. And all you're really doing is hurting your career if you want to do bigger and bigger things. And it's really no different than like if you want to be an actress, you might not want to do porn. Now maybe that'll change one day, but it's just like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I understand we shouldn't slut shame and all that kind of stuff, but you know, it's just like if you want to do certain things, there's certain behavior you have to stay away from at certain points in your life. Like if you want to be in the military, you want a security clearance like I had, you can't do hard drugs. You can't have a criminal record. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it's not about giving in. It's just like you have to be an adult about things and realize I can't have my cake and eat it too. It's like you can't live your life, have a criminal record, and then expect like, oh, I want to be a cop, or like, oh, I want a top secret security clearance. It's like, no, dude, you kind of fucked yourself on that. Same with comedy. If you do certain things, you're kind of fucking yourself in other areas, and you have to be willing to accept that.
Yeah, and the fact is, a lot of comics recognize, especially in the podcast world, that if you do a certain kind of act, you'll get viewers and you'll get money. But these people can't act like babies and say, "Oh, I didn't know I was going to not be able to, get a network TV job now." It's like, yeah, you did, because you were pandering to people who were saying, "I'm sick of you not being able to say this word on TV. I want someone who's going to give me this fluttery feeling in my chest because he said a word I know is bad." And it's like, if you lean into that, you know the decision you're making. You know that you're saying, I am sacrificing the ability to have a mainstream audience because I know that there's money to be made on these people. That's literally what Trump did. Trump said there's all these people in America who every Republican has too much integrity to go after. He was like, there's a lot of just flat out Klansmen here who feel ignored by both parties that will if you just give them a crumb of approval, that will come for you.
Smidgen.
Yeah.
Dude, I live in Charlottesville. I live in Charlottesville. When that girl Heather Heyer got hit a couple years ago, the mic that I do is literally 2 blocks away from that. And then for him to be like, hey, there's good people on both sides, it's just like, no, dude. There might be frustrated people on both sides, but there's no good racists out there. There's no good racists.
It wasn't a Trump rally. It wasn't a conservative rally. It was Unite the White, right? Wasn't it?
Unite the Right.
It was Unite the Right, but it was organized by an open white supremacist.
Yeah.
Like it was intended to be a white-themed march.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah, that's not just being conservative. That's not what conservatism is supposed to be, specifically about your being white. So, yeah, that was bad. That was really bad that became...
Dude, it was scary, man. And I happened to be on the road when that happened. I'm sitting watching the city that I live in be torn to shreds downtown, and I'm out of state. I'm in New York. My family's in Virginia. I'm terrified, man. I'm up here telling jokes at the Syracuse Funny Bone, and my wife and 5-year-old son are at home. And I live in a very, very red area. And my neighbors and everybody is really cool. But when things like that happen, your mind starts to wander, and it's very scary. I told my wife, hey, that rally is happening today. I don't want you, after dark, I don't want you guys going downstairs. Please don't answer the door. You know where my guns are. I don't care who it is, don't answer the door. Don't do it, And it sucks that it's 2020 and we still have to live like this, man. It is insane. Yeah. Sorry, Pincus. It's just I feel like I left you out here.
It's actually no. It's very scary to kind of hear that this is happening in America. And I actually wanted to ask you: do you think that America could ever go in a direction where maybe this is repaired in the near future, or do you think that maybe these people who came to the surface during the Trump era maybe start to go underground again, and then maybe we could move to some sort of civility, where people could talk again?
Well, here's the thing, man.
I do think we're moving towards something like Watergate, where there was a gigantic backlash, and the entire Nixon administration and everyone who followed them were just completely humiliated. And everyone who loved Nixon had to swallow it, had to swallow how gullible they were.
Dave, do you think I think we're past that point. Do you really think there could be an event or something that comes out where people are like, man, you know what? You were right, man. We were duped.
If I'm being honest, I think
on a mass scale, because I'm pretty sure there's some onesie twosies.
I think honestly, I fear and I expect that there's a very good chance that when this is all over, when this election is finished, whether Trump loses the election or wins and is then impeached within a year, because if the Democrats win the Senate, they're going to impeach him again and this time remove him. That's going to happen.
You think so?
Either one of those things. I believe there's a good chance that there will be a gigantic wave of domestic terrorism from Trump supporters that will be horrible, but it will be that event that makes the general public finally say, we were duped by the most insane, violent, just childish movement in American history. And I think that it's that level of violence, like a domestic 9/11, that's going to be necessary to do that. And I don't want it to happen, but
I believe that too, man.
Yeah, I think Trump, when he's finally forced to leave office, either from an impeachment or losing the election fair and square, I really think there's a good chance he's going to finally just tell people, get a gun and come to the White House and stop them from removing your president.
Yeah, and that does not shock me one bit. That's where we are, Josh. Where like that doesn't sound shocking at all, not in the least bit, dude. That's why
I think he loses.
I think he's gonna win, but that's why I keep guns, man. I do. I keep guns. I have an AR-15. I don't fuck around, man. I got a magazine loaded up right now in my bedroom just in case. I don't fuck around.
It's really scary. So I'll tell you, like, just quickly from a South African perspective, that we had a loose cannon president very much like Trump. I mean, this guy, he had 700 charges of corruption against him. He was involved in like several rapes and things like that.
You know that Mandela did not commit any of those. Those were he was put in jail illegally.
Saint. Mandela was a saint. I'm talking about Zuma.
I don't know, man.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure we can find some footage of him stealing something, right? Right, Dave? Leave it to the American media. We can find out that Nelson did something wrong at some point.
Don't bring it.
He did have a criminal record.
No.
Maybe he cheated on his wife, like Martin Luther King, and they were like, "That's enough."
That's it. Isn't that funny? That's what they try to do, dude. They just try to find one little thing to like throw away a whole movement. But go ahead. So you had a crazy guy, 700 charges.
No, and he was removed from office. So our actual like terms work for like 5 years at a time for a president. So in his 9th year, they removed him and they replaced him. So I mean, like if it could happen in South Africa, I'm sure that it could happen in America.
But was it like, did he have crazy supporters that were willing to go out? But your history is so much different with the apartheid thing, man. So I don't know to be honest, I don't know the temperament of white people in South Africa, because I don't think white people can really deny what happened in South Africa.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing about what's really fucked up about the racism in America. Like there was like Jim Crow really wasn't a written down thing. It was just a practice. And pardon me for saying, I don't mean that I respect it, but in a weird way, that's why I don't respect apartheid, but at least the people who did it had the balls to put it on paper and go, you can't have this job because you're black. In America, it's just like, you just didn't get it because you didn't try hard enough. The psychological thing that gets passed down generation after generation of black people, of like, you got to just keep trying harder, man. You got to keep trying harder. And then you see a few black people get into these positions, you go, I can do that. It was way more psychological warfare. But in South Africa, it just seemed like this is the law. You can't live here because you're black. And that's it. It was cut and dry. You can't deny it. But everything that happened here, it's deniable. You can always go, well, this guy had a better resume. Well, this guy had this. Or like, hey, look, man, you were one of 10 people interviewed. You were only one of 2 black people. There was an 80% chance that they were going to be white, even though you could have clearly had the best resume. You can always hide your racism in numbers, But in South Africa, it's just like, no, you can't have this job because you're black. Point blank. It's like, in a way, I respect the balls of you actually just saying that you're racist, but here it's all psychological. That's why we're so fucked up, man.
Right, because with Jim Crow, it implies they know this is wrong.
Right. It's all implied. There it was just like, nope, It's in the
Yeah,
law book, buddy. You
it seems
can't
like
do
South
it.
Africa, they were basically like, it was like, they're like, you know what, we need to make the laws this way because, you know, I don't think we should be here. You know, basically the
Right.
white guys in South
But
Africa.
that was it. That was exactly it. And I'll tell you, like today, you could still see like some of like the leftover effects of apartheid in the sense that, you know, the divide between the rich and the poor in South Africa is so large that, you know, you go 10 minutes out of one of the richest areas in South Africa and you've hit like the townships. So, I mean, you've already gone into the areas with the shacks and everything. Um, but, you know, it's not like America where, you know, the effects of racism are so clear. Like, I mean, ours is more rooted like in actual like class. And I mean, there's racial tension and everything like that. But
Right.
what's happening in America now today is crazy, you know?
It's wild, man.
We're an
It's
emotional
wild.
time. It's a very
Yeah.
emotional
And again,
people.
I want to make that very clear. I do not respect apartheid. I couldn't think of a better word, but it's just like they wrote it down. You know what I'm saying? They at least had the balls to and put this into on paper. It was undeniable, but people here knew not to really write shit down, and it was all just like you said. It was all implied. It was all like, oh, this is the way things used to be, and hey, this is the natural order of things. You know, and it drives you crazy because you
Yeah,
can't point it. You can't point to anything and say, you did this to me. See how this is a rule? It's like, well, it's not really a rule, man. It's just kind of, it's weird, man.
yeah,
But I
and
do
you're
not
right.
respect apartheid. I do
It's
not
you're
respect
right.
it.
It's easier to deal. It's easier to fight a rule on a piece of paper that says black people can't vote than it is to just say, oh, black people can vote if you can tell us how many jelly beans are in that jar.
There you go.
Yeah,
Right.
that's because it's harder to fight. It's more insidious
Yeah. Yeah. And
to
then like once you,
to
right,
wink at it.
right. And once we got good at counting it, it's just like, oh, there's a new rule. You can't look at the jelly bean jar, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know, last year this thing happened. That's what it's constant moving of it's constant moving of goalposts, you know.
And
It's
Josh,
just,
by the way, we're
I
not
don't know if
making
you
a.
understand.
And I'm going to explain again to Josh. We're not making an analogy. That was literally something you had to do to vote in like Mississippi in the
Really?
not the 50s, the 60s. Black people voting in the United States, and they had to say how many bubbles were in a bar of soap, how many jelly beans were in a jar. Just basically these joke, impossible questions,
To
just
like
to be able
demean
to say,
people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah,
And they would
yeah,
make the polling stations across town. Like if if black people lived on the west side, they would put the polling station 20 miles on the east side, and they would make
yeah.
up and it's just
And
like you got
you
to
think,
get
oh,
there.
you're going to take a bus? Well, guess what's going to happen to that bus?
They're all broken down.
And they would obviously, you know, they would pull the buses over. They would trump up
Right.
charges. I used to
All
be.
that type of shit.
I was in a play once about Fannie Lou Hamer, where I had to play every white person that she ever met, because
That's crazy.
I was the only white actor in the play. So I had to play the cop who beat her. I had to play Lyndon
Jesus
Johnson at
Christ.
one point.
That's a
It
lot.
was an amazing play. But like, yeah, it was a very small playhouse for me to have to play this like over the top racist cop, where I'm like 5 feet away from like these like elderly people watching the play, and I mean, it was an amazing experience because I didn't know much about Fannie Lou Hamer. I just knew the name. So, but yeah, I mean, it was all about that. It was all about like the kinds of things they did to prevent voting, the violence. I mean, we did so much in this country to circumnavigate the progress that the laws made. Because, you know, first it was, once they said you couldn't do this, they just found ways to do it.
They find a loophole. Yeah, they find something else. It's always like, well, you know, this, that, and the third. Yeah, dude, it drives people insane. Like Patrice O'Neal is like, it's just like, it drives you nuts. Like his whole bit about the dog, where like he's talking about how he met the old white guy at the dog place, and he goes, "Oh my God, are the dogs happy? You know, this, that, and the third." And he's just like, "Is this guy asking about this dog, or he's like, does he think I'm a nigga that beats his dogs?" He's like, "Is he being nice, or is this motherfucker being racist?" It's shit like that, man, that drives you crazy. Like even like when like take this for example, man. Like even the simple thing of how people will ask you what your kid, because obviously I'm black, like, oh, what's your son's name? They're expecting to hear some shit like Daquan or something stereotypically black. And I go, oh, my son's name is Miles. Oh, Miles, what a great name. Oh, what school does he go? Can he read? Can he do that? Wow, he's dressed so nice. He speaks so well. It's like, what the fuck are you trying to say? I'm like, are you being nice? Or do you just think I'm a dumb motherfucker that gave my son a weird name that so you can run back and tell your friends at some dinner party that you met a black kid with a weird name that you couldn't pronounce? It's little shit like that, dude.
I'm gonna buy that kid. I'm gonna buy your son a trumpet. He's
right. Yeah, dude, it's insane.
How's this jazz fusion?
Yeah. dude, man, it's just
Miles is huge, by the way. My cousins just got named Miles.
Yeah, I or with a Y.
Regular, like Kalani. I know it's too simple, right? Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we spell ours with an I and a Y and a.
That's cool.
But there's certain names that are just like distinctly American, like Channing. Like Channing, like nobody else in the world is named like Channing.
That's kind of a redneck name too, here, right? That's a little bit of a Southern white name. Southern white people have really taken the mantle of the crazy names. Like in the 90s, that was the stereotype that black people had, like, you know, because it was a movement like after the 80s to try to not have the anglicized names. And now Southern white people have really taken the baton and gone crazy with names.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's always, it's every single noun is a child's name in the South right now.
Yeah, dude, it's a weird. Dude, there's an older white woman that works at the Walmart down the street from me. Her name is Queena. I've never Queena.
That's amazing.
Queena, yeah. What about over there? Are there like weird names over there, or what?
Like in South Africa, like people are named like beautiful and gracious. So like names like that. But I mean, it's no Queena.
Yeah, Queena. So their names would actually be Beautiful Johnson, or like in a different dialect. Beautiful Johnson would be a great porn name, actually.
Like beautiful and like gracious and like names like that, like Beauty.
Yeah, I don't. Do you know anybody named Beauty?
Beauty. I don't.
Or something
think
like
so.
that. I know a girl named Tuesday. I know a girl named Tuesday.
That's not bad. Like Wednesday.
Yeah, I had a girl in my grade when I was in high school named Tuesday.
Tuesday.
There's a website called Name of the Year that lists it lists a bunch of real people's names that they just find in the news. And
oh, really?
It's honestly some of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. Because the thing is, some of them are clearly people with bad parents who wanted to give their kids stupid names, and some of them are obviously meth heads who change their own names.
No, that's funny.
But and it's always news articles, and I swear to God, I've laughed harder at these than some of the things I've ever seen. Like they showed a news article from Florida of a 23-year-old white girl who got caught shoplifting, and her real name was Cherry's Waffles Tennis. And it just says Cherry's Waffles Tennis arrested for stealing. And you just read, you're like, what am I reading right now? There was also, and I'll tell you my favorite one, the best one ever. This was a Dutch doctor. So in his country, this didn't mean what it means to us, but his name, and this is an official Dutch medical like study that this person wrote. Mm-hmm. And his name is Dr. Taco BM Monster.
Dude, that is hilarious.
That's the greatest name ever.
That sounds like a cereal.
Monster.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Crazy.
There was
that
also
sounds like a crazy cartoon character, dude.
I know, and this was real. There was also a Mountie,
Dr. Taco,
a Canadian Mountie whose real name was Norman Beavis Manyfingers.
Wow.
It's awesome.
I've met some guys in the military with some pretty cool names. I was in basic training with a dude named Chase Deal. That's a kind of a cool sounding name.
That's cool.
And then I knew another kid, and his name was Cash Bond. That's a pretty cool name.
That sounds like a baseball player, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound like someone who had ended up being like on the Yankees?
Yeah, just some regular Air Force guy named Cash Bond. Yeah, Chase Deal.
I think Milton Bradley, remember him, the baseball player?
Oh, yeah.
I think like he was one of those guys that a lot of parents were like, wait a second. We can do some crazy shit with our kids' names.
I know. Yeah, we stuck with the Miles, man. I
Miles
wanted to
is
name
great.
him Malcolm. I wanted to call his name of Malcolm, but she
Miles
said no.
Allen. Miles Allen sounds like a Green Lantern.
No, my name is Christopher Allen Jones. I just go because I started my comedy career while I was in the military, so I wanted to separate. So I just go by Chris Allen. So his name is Miles Xavier Jones. But I was going for I wanted Malcolm Xavier Jones, so he would be Malcolm X Jones. But my wife was like, no.
Oh, that's fun.
How did you end up going from the military into comedy? What was that like push for you?
It's just I wanted to try something different. I got orders to Las Vegas, and I was like, you know what? I should try comedy, man. People told me I was funny, and I just started doing mics. And I was there for a couple of years, and then we moved from Nevada to Ohio, and that's when I got introduced into doing like the clubs and stuff, the Funny Bones and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of worked my way from doing the contests, the open mics, to MCing, to eventually getting passed as a feature. And then I moved here to Virginia, and I met Mark Normand. And like I want to say like 3 years ago, and ever since then, man, him and I, we just hit it off for some reason, and he's been taking me on the road and introduced me to a lot of people. And I just retired from the military almost 2 years ago, so 10 years of my comedy career has been on active duty. So, dude, I would go to work from 7 to 4, get off, pick my son up from daycare, drive up to DC, do 2 or 3 mics. Drive home, get home at 2 a.m, go to bed, get up at 6, go back to work, do the same shit. And the same thing in Ohio. There were times where I would get off of work, I would have my bag in the back seat of my car. I would drive 2 hours to another town, show up to the club in uniform, change into my civilian clothes, do the show, get home at 3 a.m, go to work, and then have to do that. Yeah. I don't know. I just fell in love with it. And I would say the last 5 years of my military career, I kind of let that fall by the wayside. And I was just so focused on comedy that I came very close to getting kicked out at like my 18, 19 year mark. And here in the States, once you hit 20, you can retire and you get a pension and all that type of shit. So here I am, 40 years old. I get a pension. I get disability from the Veterans Administration. And now I'm just trying to do comedy full time. But here we are in this standstill, man. So like for the last year and a half, I've been on the road with various comics on my own and coming up to New York City to try to get my name out there. And it's been fun, but dude, I've spent so much losing money left and right on these trips and stuff. It's hard, man. And I'm not a young guy. I might not look that old, but 40 years old in comedy is fucking ancient. So it's but I love it, man. I never really want to punch a clock again unless it's writing for something. But as far as like being an intel analyst ever again and using my clearance and being in the government, I have no desire, man. And I'm leaving a lot of money on the table doing that. But it would not make me happy at all, man. I would rather do what Dave is doing and write some stuff, be creative. But dude, just going and sitting in a cubicle all day and updating databases and listening to people's stupid jokes and their kids' soccer games and their weekend at the cabin. It's like, I don't give a fuck, man.
Let me ask you, Chris, is it frustrating? Is it frustrating to know as a military guy, as a guy who's worked in media, that like all you would have to do is tweet that you love Donald Trump a few times and you could be literally in the cabinet?
I know, right? Dude, because I'm a gun guy, all that kind of stuff. I have people like, man, if you were a right-wing comic, you could be huge. And if you did, and that's Dave, that's the shit we talked about earlier, where people go, man, I want an audience. I want a full room. I want this. But it's like, I don't want to do that. And I don't want to say their names, but I know there's a couple of comics who they don't have the greatest act. They got demonetized on Facebook, and they made this hard shift to the right. And when they first started doing comedy, it was all just reaction videos to people working out or that kind of stuff. But now these guys are wearing the 1776 Freedom shirts. They're super conservative, super right wing, and their career has taken off. And
I know a guy. Their
careers have taken off. Dude, being a black guy in America and being right wing, there's money in that shit, dude. There's money in being a right wing black guy.
Oh, I know a guy named Joey Salads who I met years ago.
Ooh, vegetarian?
No, he is. He was just a sort of a YouTube guy who would just break things and a very typical YouTube video guy. And then just to make just to get himself a little more popular, he suddenly just became this huge pro-Trump troll. And yeah, he does get hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah,
But who cares? Like, is
but
it worth it?
it's all about money, man. Like honestly, dude, I bet you if I got on Facebook, if I got on, and I don't really have a huge following on social media, but if I got on, and Dave will attest to this, if I got on YouTube and I made a 5-minute video about how Kyle Rittenhouse was right and people shouldn't have done this, and like black people should support this, and I support Kyle. If don't be emotional. It's not about race, dude. That video would have a couple million views in a few days.
Yeah, no question.
It's very easily. I'm a military guy. I'm this, I'm that. I think Kyle did the right thing. He's a hero. Dude, people will be sucking my dick left and right. Left and right. They will be, but I would get a lot of hate from black people. I would get a lot of hate from liberal whites. But dude, I would get embraced by conservative white people just like that. And I would yeah, dude. It's a weird thing when you when you sit back and you go, you know what? I'm over here trying to do jokes. I'm trying to do this. I only got a couple thousand followers, but just knowing man, if I took this hard right turn, I could probably have 10,000 followers in a week.
Yeah.
100,000 in a couple of months if I did that. Because there's dudes that they do it now. They call themselves comics. All they are is just pro-Trump shills. And I don't hate on black conservatives. I feel like you have the right to support who you want. I don't call every black conservative a coon. I had an uncle that I loved dearly that was a conservative, and he was far from being a coon. He was that's just who my uncle was. He was a Vietnam vet, Marine. He was a hardworking dude. He just didn't fuck with liberal shit. But he was as pro-black as they come, man.
I would also definitely draw a distinction between black conservative and black Trump lover. I think that there's a big difference.
Right.
I'm not a conservative. I don't agree with them.
Are cooning. Let's say cooning. I know you didn't want to say it, but you know what cooning is?
I mean, I know I can't, but I'm glad that you are.
Cooning is where you're basically like have you ever seen Django?
Yeah.
Remember Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django?
Yeah.
How he was in love with this. That's basically what's considered cooning, is when you have a black person who's just really just like pushing conservative white agendas at the expense of other black people, even themselves. So,
and in the first draft of Django Unchained, Samuel L. Jackson's character actually gets sick and dies, and then tweets that the disease was not really deadly.
I like that. I like that shit. Damn, got him, Herman. That was great, man. That was great.